One of the biggest debates in travel content is whether or not you take that DSLR on that global trek or you just go with the point and shoot. Keep it nice and simple. In this video, I'm going to be discussing my experience with both types of cameras abroad. Just so you all know, I have provided direct links to all of the products that I'm discussing in these videos. Yes, they are affiliate links, but hey, I need to make money during a pandemic as well, so would much appreciate your support. A little bit of background if you are new to this channel. Following my Peace Corps service, I decided to take a gap year in which I spent 4 months in Melbourne, Australia in one location, and then backpacked Europe from January of 2019 through July of 2019. I know exactly what it's like to carry a camera on the road. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Since I'm actually using my DSLR to film this video, I thought I'd just go ahead and show y'all the boxes. So the big debate for today is whether or not to use a DSLR or to use a point and shoot for travel. Obviously, there's no debate. A DSLR will be able to produce better, higher quality content. The issue with the DSLR is the fact that the lens is detachable. So while you're traveling, that's additional bulk space being taken up in your pack. So that can be a little bit problematic. For the first half of my gap year, like I mentioned, I was in Melbourne, Australia, and I decided to take my DSLR with me. I felt like that really worked because I was working as an au pair in just one city, and it was easy for me to keep the camera equipment at home that I didn't really need that day, and then take the camera equipment I wanted with me whenever I went on day trips or I just wanted to walk around Melbourne and take some photos of all the awesome murals and architecture that they have there. That system worked for me. Now, where I ran into an issue is when I took day trips outside of Melbourne into the greater Victoria area. I went to Phillip Island, I went to Ballarat. That was when I ran into issues, especially if I was doing hiking. I had a heck of a time trying to manage my camera when I went to Wilson's Prom because I got caught in the middle of a rainstorm. I didn't have a waterproof pack. I ended up just hiding my camera underneath my baseball hat. It was definitely a bit of a sticky situation. Also, it was kind of inconvenient to be hiking with a DSLR. Now, I was able to obviously film a lot of great footage because having a DSLR, you of course have the advantage of being able to film in 4K. Because I was using the DSLR camera and my Canon Rebel SL2 does have a mic jack and is equipped to be able to put a light mount on top, I did have a lot of additional equipment with me in Australia. One of the pieces of equipment that I did bring with me is the Boya lapel mic that I'm wearing right now. One of the downsides is it does have quite a bit of cord, and in addition to that, one thing I don't really like is that the battery pack doesn't tell you when you are about to run out of battery, and you have to use these. As a traveler, yes, a lapel mic is so convenient. It's definitely better than having one of the mounted mics, but a mounted mic would take even more room, and as a traveler, you can't really do that. So even though there is the downside of having the replaceable batteries and having all this cord with me, I think honestly a lapel mic was the way to go in order to get better sound quality with the DSLR. I did mention that I also had a light mount, which is just a newer light. It has a rechargeable battery that you just plug into a wall and put on the back. Pretty easy to use, but again, it's more bulk. And then I did not have a full-size tripod when I was in Australia. I actually purchased this Canon Rebel SL2 on Amazon, so it just came with one of those freebie tripods. It served its purpose, right? I don't use this tripod anymore, but if you're buying the pack, it will come with all of it together. So that was kind of my learning curve. It was my first time traveling with a professional camera, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd watched a few videos on YouTube, but really I realized afterwards that the YouTube channels that I'd been watching weren't always made by travelers themselves. So in comes the Canon PowerShot. I purchased this camera specifically for Europe. Basically, I came home from Melbourne, I reevaluated my situation. I was going to be traveling with only a 40-liter Osprey pack. So obviously I was gonna have to fit all my camera equipment as well as everything that I was carrying with me, my clothing, into a 40-liter pack. So I knew I needed to downsize. So I went ahead, did research again, and ended up finding this camera, which I ended up absolutely loving. The nice thing about this is it does still have a selfie feature to it. If you're vlogging, it's really great. But then I would say, as a YouTuber, one of the downsides of this is point and shoot cameras generally don't have mic jacks. So I wasn't able to get the same kind of quality that I can get when I'm using a DSLR, but you are still able to put high quality SD cards in there. So this one is a 128 and it definitely served its purpose. As you can see, I was still able to take some really awesome shots. One additional thing I will say is you are able to be more subtle with a point and shoot. So if you're going to a place where you're concerned about getting pickpocketed, then probably go with a point and shoot. I was actually able to fit this point and shoot in my flip belt, which was super cool. I always had a scarf with me when I was in Morocco, so I'd be able to like take the photo, slip it underneath the scarf, and hide it into my flip pocket. And I got really lucky. I was never pickpocketed in any of the countries that I visited. Now, I did mention that I just went with the freebie tripod with the DSLR that just came with the package that I purchased on Amazon. But for the point and shoot, I went ahead and purchased an Ultrapod. Now, this is extremely lightweight. It has a little Velcro piece, and all you do is you unwrap it, you open up the little tripod. I purchased the small. They also have a larger size if you like. And pretty much any hostel you go to has books in abundance. So I just stacked up a pile of books and then I'd set the little tripod on there. Now, the one thing about the Ultrapod, at least in the small size, is that it doesn't have one of those balancing tools, but you can pretty much eyeball it or just edit it once you are using your editing software for the video. The point and shoot, even though it is small, still is tripod capable, so you're able to just connect it right there, and voila, that was my filming system. Except obviously I always used the selfie camera as well, just because I do really like that feature. So this ended up being honestly the best, and it was funny because I remember I ran into a few other photographers while I was trekking around Europe, and they were also doing their travel channel and whatnot, and they kept on saying to me, I am so jealous of your point and shoot. They were like, this DSLR is so bulky, and I'd laugh and I'd say, yeah, I tried doing a DSLR when I was in Australia, switched to a point and shoot, and absolutely loved it. So what I would say at the end of this all is, if you're going to be in one stable location, so for example, if you're going to Peace Corps, if you're going to go be an au pair, go ahead and invest in the DSLR because you will be able to manage that a little bit more. If you're going to be traveling on the road, going from hostel to hostel all the time, like I was in Europe, go with a point and shoot for sure. So that's basically what my opinion is on DSLR versus point and shoot. Ultimately, it depends on what kind of travel you are doing. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. If you have not yet followed me on Instagram, I would love for you to follow me over there. I announced last week on my channel that I do actually have a new domestic channel where I just cover domestic topics here in the United States. So if that's interest to you, definitely go ahead and check that out. All right, folks, I'll see you all next week.